It was a bright Friday morning in downtown Atlanta. The sun shimmered off the glass towers, and the streets hummed with the usual city rush, coffee cups in hand, horns blaring, and footsteps echoing across the sidewalks. Amid it all, Danielle Parker, a poised black woman in her mid-30s, walked out of a federal building parking garage. Dressed in a navy blue pantsuit, her polished heels clicked confidently on the concrete. She had just wrapped up an intense briefing at the Department of Homeland Security, where she worked as a senior intelligence officer. Her life was built on discipline, detail, and quiet strength, qualities that came from years of service and sacrifice. She had seen discrimination before, but she never let it define her. Today, though, the world was about to remind her just how far there still was to go. Danielle approached her sleek black Tesla Model S, unlocked it with a quick tap, and slid into the driver's seat. As the car hummed to life, she connected her phone to the Bluetooth and started down Peachtree Street, thinking about lunch and her next meeting. Just a few minutes later, flashing blue and red lights appeared in her rearview mirror. Confused, she glanced down. Her speed was fine, seatbelt on, no reason to be stopped. Still, she eased to the curb and waited. A white police officer, Officer James Kent, approached her window. Mid-40s, tall, broad-shouldered, with mirrored sunglasses hiding his eyes. He rested one hand on his holster as he leaned toward her. License and registration, he said sharply, not bothering with a greeting. Danielle's brow furrowed. Sure, officer. Can I ask what this is about? He smirked slightly. This vehicle was reported stolen earlier this morning. Step out of the car, ma'am. Her heart skipped. Stolen? That's impossible. This is my car, registered in my name. But Officer Kent wasn't listening. His tone hardened. I said step out of the car. Hands where I can see them. A few pedestrians had started to slow down, watching the scene unfold. Danielle took a deep breath, knowing how quickly situations like this could escalate. She opened the door calmly, stepped out, and placed her hands where he could see them. Kent circled the car, calling into his radio. Dispatch, I've got the suspect outside. Matching vehicle, matching description. Danielle's patience was thinning. Officer, there must be a mistake. I can show you my registration right now. But he interrupted, I'll determine what's a mistake. Do not move. He began to pull out his handcuffs. When Danielle decided she had had enough, with slow, deliberate movement, she reached into her jacket pocket, not fast, not sudden, and pulled out a dark blue leather wallet, flipping it open. The golden badge glinted in the sunlight. The words engraved across it read, Department of Homeland Security, Federal Agent. Officer, she said evenly, her tone steady and commanding now. Special Agent Danielle Parker, Homeland Security Investigations. You might want to double-check your information before you put your hands on a federal agent. The look on Kent's face changed instantly. His hand froze mid-air, the cuffs dangling. The color drained from his face. Agent Parker, there must be a misunderstanding, he stammered, backing up a step. Oh, there's definitely a misunderstanding, she replied coldly. And I'd like to know how my lawfully registered federal vehicle ended up on your stolen car list. He looked around nervously as the small crowd nearby whispered and recorded with their phones. One woman called out, that's what you get for profiling. Danielle crossed her arms. You pulled me over with no verification, accused me of theft, and were about to arrest me without probable cause. Do you realize the severity of that? Kent swallowed hard. I was just following procedure, ma'am. We got a call, from who? She cut in. And did you confirm the VIN before drawing your conclusions? He hesitated. The truth was clear, he hadn't. He'd seen a black woman in a luxury car and assumed another patrol car arrived. Out stepped Sergeant Lewis, Kent's superior, clearly alerted by the unfolding drama. Lewis quickly assessed the situation and looked mortified when he saw Danielle's badge. Agent Parker, he said respectfully. My deepest apologies. This was a serious miscommunication. Officer Kent will file a report immediately. Danielle didn't raise her voice, but her words carried weight. Sergeant, this isn't just miscommunication. It's profiling. I expect a formal apology in writing, and I'll be reporting this incident to Internal Affairs. She held Kent's gaze one last time. Next time you think you see a stolen car, try seeing the person behind the wheel first. With that, she got back into her Tesla, adjusted her glasses, and drove off, the blue lights fading behind her. Later that evening, as she sat in her apartment overlooking the city, Danielle received a call from her DHS director. Word had already spread. Her composure, restraint, and professionalism under pressure were being praised across the department. The officer, meanwhile, was placed under review, not just for his behavior that day, but for 3 prior profiling complaints that had been ignored until now. Danielle didn't gloat or post about it. She didn't need to. Karma had done its work quietly, just as she had, and as the city lights twinkled outside her window, she whispered softly to herself, respect isn't something you demand, it's something you earn. A week had passed since the humiliating traffic stop that went viral. For Special Agent Danielle Parker, life had returned to its usual rhythm, or so it seemed, but beneath her calm exterior, she was restless. Something about that incident still didn't sit right. She had received an official apology from the Atlanta Police Department, and Officer James Kent had been placed on temporary suspension pending investigation. The story had made headlines, sparking yet another national conversation about racial profiling and accountability. But Danielle wasn't interested in media attention, she was interested in the truth, because as a Homeland Security agent, she had learned to follow her instincts, and her instincts were telling her that the stolen car report that triggered the stop wasn't just an accident. That morning, Danielle sat in her office at DHS headquarters, reviewing security reports. Her colleague, Agent Miguel Alvarez, knocked lightly on her door. You still digging into that traffic stop? He asked with a raised brow. Danielle looked up, her expression sharp. Yeah. Something's off. The APD dispatch log doesn't show any verified report of a stolen Tesla matching my plate. Someone fed false information into the system. Miguel frowned. You think someone targeted you? I think someone tried to set me up, she said quietly. She opened a folder filled with printed screenshots, timestamps, radio logs, and GPS data. It didn't add up. The stolen vehicle report had been logged 2 minutes before the traffic stop, from a police terminal registered to an officer in a neighboring precinct. Who filed it? Miguel asked. Danielle slid the paper across the desk. That's the thing. The username's been wiped. Someone covered their tracks. 2 days later, Danielle decided to visit the Atlanta Police Internal Affairs Division in person. She was greeted by Captain Riley, a seasoned officer with salt and pepper hair who had seen it all. Agent Parker, he said, shaking her hand firmly. I heard about your case. Believe me, we're not sweeping this under the rug. I appreciate that, Captain, she replied. But I want full access to the digital report, every keystroke, every IP log. Whoever entered that false report has access to your internal systems. Riley sighed. That's a big ask. Danielle leaned forward. Someone used your database to commit a federal offense. That falls under my jurisdiction now. He nodded slowly. All right. You'll get what you need. Hours later, sitting in a dimly lit IT office, Danielle and a forensic tech combed through the digital logs. Then they found it, a hidden metadata trail pointing to a private IP address, traced to a former officer named Mark Delaney. He'd been dismissed 2 years ago for excessive force and conduct violations. Now he worked as a private security contractor, and he had friends still inside the department. Danielle's pulse quickened. He's the one who filed it. But why target me? The tech shrugged. Maybe it wasn't personal. Maybe he thought you were someone else. Danielle froze. Someone else. Suddenly, it clicked. A week before the stop, she'd led an undercover operation investigating a black market cyber group laundering money through stolen vehicles, and one of their moles had leaked DHS agent travel routes. Someone had mistaken her for their target. That evening, Danielle met Miguel at a quiet diner on the edge of the city. She explained everything, the false report, the ex-cop, the connection to their case. Miguel's eyes widened. So this wasn't just profiling, he said slowly. This was sabotage. Exactly, Danielle replied. And if Delaney's involved, he's working with someone inside law enforcement. They wanted me off the streets long enough to delay our operation. Miguel leaned back. So what now? Danielle's eyes hardened. Now, we flip the script. The next day, under a joint DHS-FBI operation, Danielle coordinated a sting. Using the same digital trail Delaney had created, they fed false intel about a federal vehicle moving through Atlanta. Sure enough, Delaney took the bait. He showed up at a warehouse expecting an easy hit, only to find himself surrounded by agents in tactical gear. Danielle stepped forward, badge glinting under the floodlights. Mark Delaney, she said firmly. You're under arrest for tampering with federal databases, obstruction of justice, and impersonating law enforcement. He froze, recognition dawning. You're the one from that car stop. She nodded coldly. That's right. The woman you tried to frame. As agents cuffed him, Danielle felt a strange mix of anger and relief. This wasn't just about a bad cop anymore, it was about a network that thought they could manipulate the system and get away with it. A week later, news broke that the Homeland Security, FBI Joint Task Force had dismantled a ring of corrupt ex-officers and cybercriminals. The story made national headlines, fake police reports used to target federal agents. Danielle was commended by the department for her initiative and courage, but for her, the victory wasn't about recognition, it was about justice. Late that night, standing on her apartment balcony, she watched the city lights again. The same view she'd seen after that first stop. Miguel called, his voice warm. You did it, Danielle. They won't be framing anyone else. She smiled faintly. They tried to make me a suspect. Instead, they made me a witness, and a reminder that truth doesn't bow to fear. The night air was cool, the world below calm again. For the first time in weeks, she felt at peace, but deep down, she knew one thing for sure: this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a much bigger war against corruption that hid behind the badge. The city slept quietly under a cloudy sky, but Special Agent Danielle Parker was wide awake. Her instincts had always been her strongest weapon, and they were screaming that the case wasn't over. Yes, Mark Delaney was behind bars. The cyber ring had been exposed. The fake police report that led to her being stopped was proven to be part of a cover operation, but something didn't add up. During Delaney's interrogation, he had dropped a line that still echoed in her mind: "You think this ends with me, Agent Parker? You have no idea who's really pulling the strings." That one sentence was enough to keep her digging. 2 weeks later, Danielle sat in the Cyber Intelligence Division with a cup of cold coffee beside her. She had been analyzing files seized from Delaney's laptop, encrypted emails, payment receipts, and VPN logs. As she decoded the last layer of encryption, one file stood out: Project Atlas. The document was marked classified, internal eyes only, but not DHS. It was marked FBI Internal Affairs, Atlanta Division. Her brow furrowed. Why would an ex-cop working with cyber criminals have access to internal FBI files? She clicked it open, and her pulse quickened. Inside were surveillance orders, list of targets, and encrypted messages, all pointing to a covert operation involving senior law enforcement officials and private contractors. The operation's focus: monitoring and framing federal agents investigating internal corruption. Her name was on the list. That evening, Danielle met Agent Miguel Alvarez at their usual safe house, a small office tucked away behind a shuttered warehouse. She placed the printed file on the table. "They were watching us, Miguel. The entire time. Even our internal emails were being mirrored to an outside server." Miguel's face darkened. "Who has that kind of access?" Danielle tapped the logo at the top of the file, the FBI seal. "Someone very high up." Before they could say another word, Danielle's phone buzzed. It was an anonymous text message: "Stop digging. You're being watched. Trust no one inside DHS." Miguel looked at her in disbelief. "This is bigger than we thought." Danielle stood up. "Which means we can't go through official channels anymore. If they're inside the system, we'll have to take this outside it." 3 days later, Danielle scheduled a closed-door meeting with Assistant Director Helen Voss, her direct superior at Homeland Security. She brought all the evidence: the forged report, Delaney's confession, the FBI-linked files. But halfway through her presentation, she noticed something strange. Voss wasn't surprised. She wasn't shocked or angry. She was calm. "Too calm, Agent Parker," Voss said slowly. "These are serious accusations. Are you sure you want to pursue this? For your own sake?" Danielle narrowed her eyes. "What do you mean, for my own sake? This is evidence of treason." Voss leaned back, her expression cold. "Some things are above your clearance level. Sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie." Danielle froze. The message was clear: her superior was in on it. That night, as she drove home through the quiet streets, a black SUV began following her. She switched lanes twice, took an unexpected turn. It followed every time. Her grip tightened on the wheel. She wasn't paranoid anymore. She was being hunted. Instead of heading home, she drove straight to an FBI field office, but not the one in Atlanta. She went to the Augusta branch, where she knew a trusted contact worked: Agent Noah Reeves, a man known for his integrity. When she arrived, Noah let her in through a side entrance. "Danielle, what the hell's going on? I got a warning from DC about you." She handed him the encrypted drive. "I need this in federal custody. The corruption isn't local, it's internal. Someone's running a shadow operation through the FBI database, targeting DHS agents." Noah plugged in the drive, scanning it with his secure system. After a few minutes, his eyes widened. "Jesus Christ, Danielle, this goes all the way up. These orders came from the Office of Special Projects." Danielle frowned. "That's supposed to be shut down." Noah looked grim. It was. Officially. The next morning, before dawn, the Atlanta DHS office caught fire. Every server, every terminal, every piece of evidence Danielle had been working on, destroyed. The news reported it as an electrical malfunction. But Danielle knew better. It was a cover-up. Her apartment was searched that same night, drawers overturned, files missing, and a small black device hidden under her table. A listening bug. She stared at it for a long moment, then crushed it under her heel. They wanted to silence her. They'd have to do better than that. 2 weeks later, a breaking headline shook the nation: Homeland Security whistleblower exposes federal conspiracy, names leaked. The files Danielle had recovered had been released to independent journalists. Someone, perhaps Noah, perhaps an ally she didn't even know, had made sure the truth couldn't be buried. Within 48 hours, multiple high-ranking officials from both DHS and FBI were suspended pending investigation. And one of the names that surfaced was Assistant Director Helen Voss. Danielle didn't go to work after that. She vanished quietly, off-grid, using one of the secure identities she had built for deep cover missions, but every so often, encrypted messages appeared in Miguel's inbox, short, simple, and signed, but unmistakably her. They tried to frame me. Now I'm framing them. Truth is the weapon they fear most. The storm isn't coming, it's already here. Somewhere far from Atlanta, in a safe house lit only by a single desk lamp, Danielle sat with her laptop, tracing the digital fingerprints of a dozen more hidden networks. This wasn't about revenge anymore. IT was about exposure. The same badge that once got her stopped by a racist cop was now the shield protecting her as she brought down corruption at the highest levels of power. And for the first time, Danielle Parker wasn't just an agent,